Wide world of sorts. After dark, by the light of one of Abe's special candles, we watched a raccoon cub wiggle up out of the woods on the path behind the truck. Ernie sprung and threw a boot at it, so it turned and wiggled back into the woods the way it came. Abe looked up from another postcard but went right back to it. Ernie then went to bed in Abe's truck and secured himself inside with a push on the power locks. The sun came up to the far right of our view across Guntersville Lake in Alabama. Everyone showered, but drying off proved difficult. Ernie drove the entire hot stretch down through Alabama and past Montgomery. We ate lunch at a family dining room in West Alabama with free refills for iced teas we only paid 30 cents for in the first place. Night 3 we spent on the coast near Biloxi, Mississippi. For $20, the campground gatekeeper gave us a reserved spot in a large, empty, grassy area just past the campground's pool area. The empty pools and the old blue water slides were locked behind a fence. The campground was surprisingly close to a set of train tracks, though by midnight the heavy rolling of the freight cars had put us all to sleep. On the Mississippi Coast Highway, we passed marinas, casinos, beaches, and parking lots. There was nothing to marvel at, really, except for the water temperature, though it wasn't pretty. Our feet stirred up a thick, powdery silt. We were too close to the Mississippi Delta. We were too close to the Mississippi Delta, a couple explained to us on the beach. Then they said, you really have to go to Florida to find water worth swimming in. In the morning, we stopped only twice on the way to New Orleans. Once for a snack bag refill at Walmart, and the second time for po' boys at Caldwell's Good Food and Game Room on Highway 90 near the Louisiana border. We ate the po' boys in the blistering hot parking lot with 3 medium Cokes and fistfuls of extra brown towels. After eating, I wiped the excess grease off my hands and put a good squeeze on the steering wheel. Parts of our March trip to the southwest coast of Jamaica came back to me in the heat. Negril, Jamaica. Paradise for the recovering Catholic. So purposeful in its purposelessness. So useful in its pointlessness. 2 beers strong, I stepped onto the wall and tucked the edge of the cliffs with my toes. Abe had gone quiet, so I spoke again. What's that dark spot? That's hell, my brother. A wimp's salvation awaits you down there. He sipped his drink. Whenever you're ready, Mr. Dan. The tide's going out. Let's get this over with. After our last day on the beach, Abe and I left the others to look at some cliffs that had scared us all week. The taller, quieter cliffs just east of Rick's Cafe at LTU. For what LTU stands, they don't say. Maybe something like Last Turkey Underwater. We leaned against patio chairs 50 or 60 feet above the cove, an inlet swelling with the steady rhythm of some unseen ocean lungs, perhaps the Kraken zone. We talked about the distance, the surface tension of the water, and the questionable depth. We stared at the water until the sun went down and the cove got dark. A spotlight hummed a life below the ledge, and in a minute I knew that my staring was lifting the cliff higher. And so I jumped, feet first, arms on my sides, and chin down. It took 2 or 3 seconds. The light from the top faded quickly as the cliff wall went past me. I dropped so fast it was like I'd fallen out of a plane. Then I hit, and the water shot past me, and the surface water shot past me like a full-body wetsuit being ripped up over my head. I hit the dark bottom hard and fast, and my heels took a jolt. It wasn't deep enough. Then 25 feet back to the swells in the air, keeping my blinking bloodshot eyes on the spotlight jumping around above me. I took a giant deep breath, and then Abe, the gentle wonder boy, crashed into the water, taking it hard to the chin. Back at the hotel, Ernie and a few others were sitting on the balcony, eating jerk chicken from the cart down on the corner. Special sauce spread generously around their faces. "You guys really jumped that shit?" Ernie answered to the group. "Yeah, man," Abe said. "It was nothing." A bit later, the girls from across the hall came over. "Holy shit, you guys really jumped those cliffs? You guys are animals." So the mighty Moody stayed around long enough to steal some chicken and a piece of white bread, and then slipped to the back of the condo for some quiet time and a shower. The week in Jamaica had come to a just and rightful close, a week of great comfort, if not quite luxury. And as one southern climate felt little different than the next, my attention turned easily and inevitably back to the new southern scenes unfolding in front of us. We saw the Louisiana Superdome, the world's largest room, from 3 or 4 blocks away on Canal Street in New Orleans. It was 11 in the morning. Abe parked us curbside near the front of the French Quarter and then led the search for a hotel. He took us without reason or rhyme several blocks in and several blocks over. He disappeared into the Chateau Le Moyne on Dauphine Street, as we learned from a small brass placard, half hidden by a tall potted tree. The Chateau is a surprise Holiday Inn, an ordinary franchise hotel built into an old antique boarding house. When Abe came out, he told us about a special. $72 for 2 big beds and a balcony. An early in the week deal for a room that was $300 on weekends. Later in the afternoon, we swam in the hotel pool and sat around in lounge chairs in the hotel courtyard. At 9 or 10 p.m., there were strange high-powered spotlights and a crowd of thousands just 2 blocks from the hotel. A Julia Roberts, Denzel Washington movie being filmed, the valet explained to us. Something about a bird, a pelican. We were sharing the balcony with the room on our left looking out. 3 or 4 college girls from North Carolina. One of them, a good-looking one, came out and sat down at my table with the book, and they had their own table. I said hi and made conversation for a minute, and she smiled through most of it. I then closed my magazine and tossed it up in the middle of the table where it half covered the hole from the umbrella. I went quiet and pretended to get all caught up with the color of the sky just over the horizon. She kept reading. 5 or 6 minutes passed and I came up with nothing else. Then the girl leaned forward and put her hands on the arms of her chair, getting ready to stand up. "Feels like a nice night for a swim," she said. I smiled like a dumb young uncle. "Yeah, that sounds nice." She continued to her feet and stepped a slow step away from the table into the clearing between our 2 doors. Abe, the sensitive terrorist, as Ernie likes to put it, the freak who terrorizes you with his faggoty niceness, was off on a jog. Ernie was inside the room whispering and coo-cooing on the phone with his new girlfriend. I, Dan, the boy with the shaved head, was out on the balcony all by himself. "Would you like to go down on me?" she asked. What she actually asked was, would you like to go down with me? But either way, Moody Man was taken by surprise. Actually, I'm pretty beat. I'll probably just crash, was the answer. And so she left, and there Moody was, as Moody was before she came. Ernie was still talking on the phone, but the door had been closed. The bright room was silent behind the glass. The sounds of the large crowd of onlookers below rose to a feverish pitch. One of the stars must be making an appearance, I realized. I reached for my magazine just as a big blank of sudden solitude set in and got an old familiar shiver. An old familiar shiver. I sat on our balcony and thought about Jenny up in Iowa. I closed my eyes to the French Quarter and imagined myself on her farmhouse front porch. The sky was thick with her. Jennifer, the girl who understands the dumb loneliness, the craving for the exotic, the craving for the normal, all together, all at once, all the time. And I had part of one of her poems in my head from the reading she gave at the record store. I'd grab this agony god and kick it in the teeth if you promise me bliss. But I'll wait, pause, for what I don't know. And I couldn't remember the rest, but I was sure the rest was just as good. Everybody in the room cried and clapped and laughed and looked at each other, and a few people hyperventilated, and a few other people let go short, spastic yelps. There were even a few who looked around doing nothing, and then fell over and hit their heads on the ground. And best of all, she was back in her seat looking at the floor before anyone knew what hit them. My Jennifer.